wo sie feult. Sie liegt und feult, schon 2000 Jahr, und keiner hebt sie nicht auf. Rachamones hat wer, und kommt nur her, hebt auf, aber wo sie feult, trockt mich hin, von wannen ich bin, wo mir hat mir zum erstens versehen.
If you walk along the road, you will spy a lone flower wilting away. She's been wilting away for 2,000 years, and there's no one to pick her up. Come close and take pity, passerby. Pick up the withering flower. Carry me back to where I come from, where I was first planted in the soil. This song was written by Eliakim Zunzer in 1869, when Tsar Alexander II came to the throne and ushered in a period of reform. Later, the song was reinterpreted as a song of return to Zion, but that wasn't its original intent. For my mother, invoking the memory of this song, it is a mood piece.
Sie liegt und feult, schon 2000 Jahr, und keiner hebt sie nicht auf.
You know what they say, a gypsy sings when he's hungry, and we were certainly hungry for culture, for freedom, for joy. We didn't drink. We didn't have any external artificial means of stimulation. Songs were the greatest spiritual nourishment of our generation. Music has been part of my mother's life since she was born in Vilna in 1906, and it was part of our parents' home after they settled in Montreal, Canada in 1940. Now, although we grew up hearing these songs, we owe actually much of our knowledge of our mother to the YIVO project directed by Barbara Kirschenblatt Gimblett in the 1970s, which was called East European Jewish Folk Song Performance in its Social Context. One day in 1973, Michael Stanislavski, now professor of Jewish history at Columbia University, and then Barbara's research assistant, came to Montreal looking for informants. He asked me if I knew anyone who sang Yiddish folk songs. And of course, I said my mother, thinking uncharitably, better him than me. Those dozens of hours in her company, I did not then envy him. But thanks to those interviews, our mother was revealed to us as an artist, very conscious of her craft, and we are grateful for the privilege of sharing her bounty.
Here, a decade after the original series of 12 hours of tapes were made, she is performing the oldest songs in her repertoire. They are not hers, but her mother's songs, the songs of Fradl Matz, who was described in a lyrical piece of my sister's in commentary as the most beautiful woman in Vilna. Now, the way my mother uses songs is in a very associative manner. Her association will go to an episode in the First World War, when the beloved eldest son of Fradl Matz, Nyonya, Benjamin, went off to fight and was captured by the Germans. He escaped, made his way back to Vilna, and then returned to the front. He survived the war, only to die in the great influenza epidemic of 1918. That death in 1918 was a major event in our Montreal childhood. We relived that over and over again. Wer sagt die Dinge?
Wenn Sie in der Einsamkeit von den Orten, also wie ich bin Menschen, also wie gewesen mit den 10 Kindern, gestanden und sich gewarnt bei der Mädel, oder ein höherer Eberle. Große Zimmer und zweimal so groß, die beiden Zimmer, die sind gewesen ein Esszimmer. Also gemacht wie die beiden Zimmer, große Zimmer gewesen. Sehr große Zimmer, weil 10 Kinder, jeder eine hat doch gehabt, im Zimmer hat doch gehabt, Winkeln bestanden, sie gewesen bestanden, 2, 3 Schlafzimmer und das ganz für 10 Kinder. Ist das, sie stehen bei bei dem Eberle und sie versingen ihre jüdische Lieder, gewinnt das, du weißt doch, und in Zeit von Milchome, wenn Binyamin ist weg, in Milchome und Krieg ist weg in Russland, sagt sie stehen beim Eberle und singen. Mein Josef und Binyamin klappen in mein Tier, oi, Jorn gehen weiter, na, 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 na. Mein Josef und Binyamin klappen schon in Tier. Das ist ein sehr schönes Lied.
Was ist das?
Ich kenne es nicht, ja, ich kenne es nicht.
Von einem Michael Josef
Ta, mein Josef und Binyamin kommen bald daheim. Oi, Jorn werden kommen und ta. Mein Josef und Binyamin klappen in mein Tier. Das
ist von einem Polenspiel?
Das kennst du ja, das Gefühl ist auch, ist ein gewöhnlicher Lied.
Finally, my mother professes to her adoration of her parents. Beide hab ich geliebt, azoi wie a Sefer Teure. I love them as I love a Sefer Torah.
Mein Josef und Binyamin klappen in mein Tier. Und ich bin gewöhnt zu hören. Und ich bin gewöhnt, weißt du, das Publikum ständig. Ich bin nicht dabei gegangen, also nicht von der Mama und nicht von den Taten. Ich habe sie beide gehört, als ich das vertehe. Weil ich habe gewusst, dass ich gerade das vertehe in meinem Herzen und bei mir.
Now, her mother considered her singing part of a collective struggle for Jewish survival. She was convinced that the cultural competition with the surrounding nations was either going to be lost or won through the power of Yiddish songs. But the real struggle, of course, as it remains, is with the fellow Jews. Now, if I had to define it, Yiddish was for Mother the language of greatest inclusiveness, the way of holding the whole Jewish experience together. The speaker of Yiddish seemed always true to himself. Yiddish could absorb modernity without losing its own dignity and values. So in Vilna, parents' friends adopted the boastful phrase of Soviet propaganda, Nash vsyo jest, we've got everything. And they used it to describe themselves. And that proud sense of inclusiveness seemed to define our home as it does Mother's repertoire. By contrast, in Vilna, when she was growing up, Mother's older brothers and sisters had all begun to speak Russian. Then during World War I, Vilna was taken over by the Germans, and so they switched to German. Then Vilna became part of the Polish Republic, and so they had to learn Polish. And they mocked the people who kept changing languages in that way, strictly for accommodationist purposes. And so here is the song that she chooses to introduce her repertoire. She calls it one of the most characteristic songs of our time, a song against assimilation and against what she calls komplexen. Komplexen are the Jewish inferiority complex, the dislike of one's Jewishness that would drive someone to hide it. So most of the Jews in Mother's crowd attended Vilna University, but they made fun of those fellow students who actually tried to become Polish, to turn themselves into Poles. And they would say about them, no more Itche Yankel. They'd call themselves Ignaz or Jan. Hakel, Fakel, Fleckel, that means hocus pocus, and he thinks he's a gentleman. So this song is about the female assimilationists, the Żydówkas, which was the Polish term for Jewesses. The first stanza shows how useless, let alone undignified it is to try to satisfy the anti-Semites by pretending not to be a Jew. The assimilated Jewish girls are pretty stubborn. They speak Polish relentlessly so that they should not be recognized for the Jewesses that they are. Polish is their idea of a language. Yiddish is to them just garbage. The second stanza is about trading in Yiddish culture for Polish culture. And the third stanza is about the item of their physiognomy that gives them away. And so then they change their tune. Yiddish becomes the beautiful language and Polish the ugly one.